Under the listens actively competency, marker number 4 says this: the coach notices, acknowledges, and explores the client's emotions, energy shifts, nonverbal cues, or other behaviors. There's a lot packed in this. And I want to also read the next one because I think they go together really well. So marker number 5 is that the coach integrates the client's words, the client's tone of voice and body language to determine the full meaning of what's being communicated. On these, when they say full meaning, remember, it's not for the coach to understand the full meaning. It's for the client to understand the full meaning, right? So in order for the client to understand, to fully comprehend and grasp what's coming out and what's coming up for them, we're utilizing what they're communicating. Sometimes that's words, and often what they're communicating is not through words. So there's some aspects here to understand. What I've often heard, is coaches noticing things. And that's great. You need to notice things. So noticing that the client had a certain expression, noticing that the client paused, noticing some kind of a shift in energy. But see here that this goes deeper than just noticing. And let me tell you why. If you just express that you noticed it, right? Maybe acknowledged it. Yep, I saw this, right? So good, you noticed it and you said something. Often what will happen is I hear coaches saying, well, yeah, I noticed that, but they didn't say anything, right? So notice it, acknowledge it, say something about it. And what's really important is that you explore it. So just noticing it and saying it doesn't actually cause the client to learn anything unless you do it in a way to bring impact, right? So let me tell you the difference between noticing and acknowledging and just like glossing over it, right? So if I notice that the client said, I don't ever want to do that again, right? I can notice, I noticed that they said that. I can even acknowledge, well, I heard you say you don't ever want to do that again. And then ask some non-related question, like, because in order to meet the competency, I had to notice it and I had to say something. And I wanted the client to know I heard them. What did you do for the client to learn? So you actually want to explore it. So I noticed that you said, well, actually, I wouldn't say I noticed. I would say either you said you don't ever want to do that again. Tell me more about I don't ever want to do that again. Right? So I might explore it that way. I might explore it like, what don't you ever want to do again? Right? So I've acknowledged that they said it because I've used their words. Number 5, integrating the client's words. What don't you ever want to do again? Right? And I've asked them questions so that they can explore and learn what they never want to do again. I could also use silence. And when they say, I don't ever want to do that again, I could say, you don't ever want to do that again. And just let the impact happen and let the client sit with it and they'll start talking, right? So it's all about what are you trying to do and what are you trying to get the client to understand, right? So there's multiple ways of noticing, acknowledging, and exploring. What's key is that you do some exploration. Noticing and acknowledging is good. But if that's all you do, then the client's not going to move forward. You have to explore it. Maybe not every single time, but you also can't never explore it, right? So we want to explore the emotions that they're showing, energy shifts, nonverbal cues, and other behaviors. I want to caution you to not use coaching language. So I do hear coaches say, I noticed an energy shift, or I noticed that your energy shifted. If that's not your client's normal way of speaking, their normal language, that's not going to resonate with them. And it's going to feel really odd, and it's going to seem out of place. And if I'm listening to your recording, I'm going to know that you said that because it's a coachy word, or you tried to meet some kind of a competency marker and you wanted to make sure to bring that in. Right? So instead of using, I noticed your energy shifted, or I saw an energy shift, you could instead say something like, so I see that you're getting a lot more maybe passionate about this, or I can see that you are really beginning to show more energy, more focus, more emotion around this. What's going on for you? Right? You might say something like, so I noticed that you were up here, and then all of a sudden everything dropped. What's going on? Or what happened? Right? So you want to use language that the client understands, and you want to create that space for them to have to stop and wonder and go back and say, well, what did happen? Right? So then there's also this integrating the client's words and tone of voice and body language. So when we are being responsive in the way we talk with clients, we're bringing in what they said. We're pulling on the strings that they provide, and we're using their language, and we're asking questions that they've already given us, right? We're using language they've given us to ask questions. You also want to integrate their tone of voice. So if they are getting more energetic, then you want to get more energetic, right? The energy that they're displaying, you want to display. If they are kind of more reserved and more quiet, then you want to match that. Now, there's times when you might want to mismatch it for specific reasons. You'll learn more about that in your coach training. But you want to make sure that you are using the language the client is giving you. If the client is doing this and making these signs when they're talking, then you want to use your hands too and do something similar. You don't want to, if they're doing this, you jump up and do this. That's mirroring. That's maybe even might feel like mocking, right? That's not what you want to do here. What you want to do is, so the client did this and they're talking about all this stuff that's going on in my head. And you're listening and you're watching and you're letting them go. And then as you're talking, you're asking questions, or maybe you're reflecting back to them. So there's all this stuff in your head. What's important to sort through, right? So if you do that, it doesn't feel unnatural. It doesn't look weird, because it doesn't look like you're mocking the client, right? You're utilizing the client's language. They said all this stuff in my head. And so if you've got all this stuff in your head, what's all this stuff like? Right? And so it's their language. You're utilizing it and you're bringing it out so that they can understand the full meaning of what they've communicated.